In today's video, we're going to be looking at servers and the different sizes of servers that are out there. First off, we're going to be looking at the 1U server, which is the smallest server out there in terms of a form factor. Now, a 1U server comes in different lengths, but the height is generally the same. Basically, it's the smallest server size and height that you can get to fit into a rack. A 1U server is approximately 2 inches. The next size is a 2U server. Following that is a 3U, 4U, and so on and so forth. A typical server rack can hold 48U servers. So you could have single 1U servers, 48 of them, in a server. Now server racks come in different sizes. You can get a 10U, you can get a 42U, you can even get a 24U. So it all depends on what your own requirements are. Server racks also come in different types. So you have a server rack that might be 4-port. In other words, the server gets bolted onto the front and also onto the back, giving you better stabilization on that server. On that server rack. Compared to what's typically called a telco rack, where it's a 2-post rack, and you can bolt a server onto the front. Now, that typically is not suggested because of the weight of the server. You're basically putting a lot of stress on the front, what are called ears, or in this case brackets, and that could snap at any time. So you don't really want to do that unless you have some other support on the back of it to somehow keep it stable. Now that's a 1U. Now unfortunately I don't have a 2U here to show you what the size is, but I do have a 3U. So between a 1U and a 3U is a 2U. So just to give you a better idea of the 3U size, the 3U size is approximately 5.5 inches in height. And then below that is a 4U. The 4U is 7 inches. Now the reason why these sizes are important is because when you're renting space at a data center or at a co-location center, you're paying by the use, or in other words, the space that you're using, just as you would if you were renting an apartment. It's the size of the apartment or the size of the space that you're renting that's going to cost you the money, as well as obviously the amount of bandwidth, as well as the amount of power that particular server is using. So the smaller form factor, the cheaper will likely be in terms of the rental cost for that space. So that's why typically you don't see a server that is basically a box, that is a typical desktop unit. Some co-location centers use those simply because they own the co-location space and they can put any size they want. So you want to be wary of the size of the server that you have and the costs that are involved. Now, server sizes are not only the height, but also the length of the server. So server lengths could be, very small. It could be very long. It all depends on the server itself and its form factor. So I'll be showing you here another server. Now, we have here what's called a NAS, or a RAID array. So in here are typical bays of a server. Of a hard drive base. So this here is a 4U space. So you have a 4U form factor, and you have what is called a RAID array. So in here is not a computer, but just hard drives. So you could have something like a 1U server where you have this one over here, that is actually the brains of the computer, or in this case of the server, and obviously it can't fit a large amount of hard drives. In this case, it can't fit 12 hard drives. Typically what it will have is space for 2 hard drives, maybe if you're lucky 3 hard drives. Now, the reason why there's 2 hard drives in there is for redundancy. So if one drive fails, the other drive will continue to function. So you typically have space for 2 hard drives, and that's usually just for the operating system. For the actual storage of the server, depending on your use, you could use the same OS drive, the same operating system drive, or you could get a RAID array, such as the one shown here. Now this one here is a 12 bay RAID array, where you basically just put in your hard drives into that unit. Now this is a 4U, as I said, so you could use a 4U plus a 1U, and you now have a 5U space, but you have a tremendous amount of hard drive storage space. Now hard drive prices are going down, so it makes sense to use a very powerful server in a 1U case or even a 2U case, and then attach something on like a RAID array. Now a 1U server case, keep in mind the space is very confined. So a 2U is probably better because a 2U can handle a regular, what's called a stock fan on the CPU. That's usually the challenging part, is cooling down that CPU. So you want to use something that will ventilate as well as will keep that CPU nice and cool. With a 1U, it is a bit of a challenge, so a 2U is typically recommended. Now, as I was saying, server lengths vary depending on the make, depending on the form factor. So over here, we have a 1U server case. Now this 1U server is fairly tall, and in the video here you can't even see how tall it is because it's so tall. So I'll just turn it on its side here, just to give you a better idea. And I still can't fit it in the video here. Let's see if I can get that there. So this is the length of the server case. This is a 1U HP, I believe it's a ProLine server. And you'll see here the length of it. Let's see if I can just have to hold it up. So from front to back, we're looking at approximately 27 inches in length. So that is the length of this 1U server case. Now you could use a long server case to accommodate your hardware. You're not paying extra typically for that space because you're basically using the same 1U size. So you want to check your data center or your co-location center to make sure that they are able to accommodate this larger form factor. Now, as I said, this is approximately 27 inches. I'm just going to compare that against the typical size of a server case. In this case, it's a 20-inch. Now, you'll see that server cases come in 20-inch, 22-inch. It's generally around that size. Now, I'll just give you a better idea here of the server case. So you'll see at the top there we have a 1U, we have a 3U, and a 4U. You'll notice that the 1U and the 3U are approximately the same size. The 4U is a bit deeper. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Now, just going back to the regular size server cases that are typically a stand-up case. I'm just going to pan over here, and we have here IBM eServers. So these are servers that you may have in an office space, in-house servers typically, and these are where you don't care about the size. these are where you rack up into your own office, and you would be able to, accommodate it on a shelf, basically. But you don't want to be putting this in a data center because, again, you're paying for that space in the data center. So just to give you a better idea here, this space alone, which is just a bevel, you're looking at approximately a little over 1 inch. You're looking at approximately 1.5 inches. And if you compare that against the 1U, just going to switch back over here really quickly. If you compare that against the 1U, you'll see here that it's 2 inches. So alone, just on this flimsy piece of plastic over here, you're looking, well, actually it's not that flimsy, but you're looking at a 1.5 inches, which is a tremendous amount of space to be wasting just on this piece of plastic. So this could be a one-use server. This could be taking up a one-use space. But if you were to rack this, or you were to put this into a data center, you would be basically paying for 17 inches of space. So, you don't want to be using something like this. And if you turn it sideways, yes, you may be able to do that. You're still looking at approximately 6.5 inches for this server. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can identify this, but these are two different servers here. I'll just show you there. That is the 6 inches that I was referring to. So when you're choosing a server, you want to make sure that it's going to be able to accommodate your needs and as well as keep down your price. So you want to go with something where you can expand on and also be able to have the parts on hand in case that server ever does go down. In a case of a hardware failure, you do have those parts on hand. So this concludes my video today, identifying servers, the sizes of them, as well as some recommendations being in the business. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you have any comments or questions, please post them. Thanks again for watching. Take care.